and sisters, I'm coming here because the last video I uploaded, it cut off major parts of it for some reason. If you believe it or not, I'm trying to have this video done to get this message out since yesterday at 4 p.m. I'm working tirelessly to get it done. I'm filming, then things are disappearing, and then I'm uploading, and then things are still missing and cut off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Like I had this dream 3 or 4 days ago, 3 days ago, I would say, and I keep asking God what it means, and I got even confirmations to go get it out. It's important for the body of Christ to be aware that uh, how things are lining up with the news right now and what's happening, and we are looking at a tribulation onset window beginning of November, okay? And either way, and let me tell you about the dream. I really want to share this with you, and I apologize if you watch my other video, the video I last uploaded, and it cut off, and then suddenly, then it jumps to sisters, had like a testimony about the fourth watch, the fourth puzzle, and how it all ties in uh, on Amanda's channel. Guys, I've not seen this many attacks in forever. I don't know what is happening. Um, and the weirdest part, when I dreamt the dream, when I had the dream, I actually woke up because of a nightmare. So from the dream, it switched into a nightmare, and it was so terrifying that my husband had to wake me up in the night. I'm like, "No, you're having a nightmare." I'm like, "Okay," and then I finally calmed down when and then I fell back to sleep, and I didn't remember about the dream until I think I heard it on Global Rapture News, I think. He mentioned, I was listening to him and I heard one sentence he mentioned, where he mentioned one word. And that was that the dominoes were all set to fall. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I had something about, I just dreamt about dominoes, a domino game, and it was so weird, and it took me forever to even remember pulling all the parts back of all the dream and what they mean, and ask for confirmation from God, and the words that I received in Hebrew from God. So I want to keep this short because you can watch parts of it on the other video. But right now I just want to explain to you quickly the dream. So I dreamt about the fact that I was in an arcade and somebody has asked me, do I play domino games? And I'm like, that's weird. I play Rummy. I don't Rummy tiles. I don't play domino per se, but I know how to play them, right? And they say, oh yeah, the game with the dots that align, and you kind of play the game that way. And they say, yeah, let me show you this domino game right here. And then when it was a big table and I looked down the table and there was the domino game was already finished, all the pieces were in place and all the dots were aligned. Like how you align three with the other domino tile and whatnot. And it wasn't a round circle in a big clock. And I was like, well, that's weird. Like, I thought you want to teach me how to play the game. But, like, what do you want to show me? It's already finished the game. I said, no, yeah, do you see how everything is lined up? That's very, very important, that the dots were all in place, ready to be, you know how you've seen the movies, when you see in a cartoon specifically, when they light up and then there is a pattern going, and then they strike the light or strike the fire, and then it lights up on the set pattern. So I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. Okay. And then next scene, Next scene, right after I said, "Oh yeah, I see how they're all lined up, all the dots already in place. Are they're in place, matching all the details." And this and next scene, I'm on this. I'm going to myself up. I'm going to move myself out of the picture here, because I want to show you. This is where I dreamt that I was in the military, and I was stationed at a nuclear bunker station in Alaska. And I'm like, why Alaska, right? And the way I knew it was Alaska, because we were outside, it was still peace, nothing was happening, and there were fishermen, they were doing something with a dead whale, which I don't know what it means. Maybe you guys can help me. What does a dead whale mean? Then I looked at some on my other side. Some people were on some boats. Inuit, or I don't know what they are. Uh, and then the ground was frozen, and I could hear the crunch boots on the ground. And then suddenly, because there were other people there too, and we hear jets flying over us. Jets, and not just bombers, like bombers with, like, I don't know the airplanes, the bombers, how they are. Like, I don't know their names, but there are like a lot of planes and a lot of drones flying with them together. Like, the sky was filled, and they were kind of flying also a bit low, which was so strange. So anyways, and the alarm sounded, and we ran down into the bunkers. We closed the doors, secure everything. And from my perspective, I was just like a soldier, like an armsman, taking orders. So we're like very busy, arming. And we now were using nuclear missiles to take these, whatever they were, down. So while this was happening, I had a little break in the dream. Like in my dream, I had like a break. I was on a break. Other people took my shifts, and I was in the kitchen. And the bunker was like really, thick walls, cement block walls, cold, and just kind of like, just barely nothing in there. There were like the bunk, like the bed bunks were in the same room with everybody. There was like a small shower, and everybody had to wait in line. That was very detailed. I was quite surprised because there were so many details. People sleeping, other people working, and I could see like the boots down at each bed. Like, I haven't been in the military, I don't know how this looks like, but maybe how I've seen the movies. Either way, the most important part is I got thirsty. So I went to the kitchen. It was a very small kitchenette, very narrow. And then I saw just above the sink, there was like this very tiny window. You know how they have like in the war bunkers, like very small windows. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I want to see what's out there. But it was very cold also in the bunker itself. And then I kind of, you couldn't see through the window yet. I hope it records, because I'm trying so hard for like 28 hours, 30 hours to do this message, to get it out. So you couldn't see through the window yet. It was like covered with another cover, like being protected or something, like how it's in a bunker. I don't know. So I wanted to see what's that above. I didn't even know there was a window there. I just kind of wanted to see that, oh, what is this that moves, right? So I kind of like pulled it, and was moving very, very hard. I had to pull it very hard, and it was very cold too. And then I could see outside. There was a very small window, and I could see outside, the snow, and just like frozen terrain, like no hills or anything, just frozen ground. And so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, nothing to see there, right? So I closed it back. I had my sip of water, and then suddenly the same scene repeats itself. And now I'm getting my water glass, and I'm doing the same thing. But now the panel that I had to pull wasn't cold anymore. It wasn't frozen icy, It was just kind of like warmer. And I was like, oh, that's strange. I thought it was cold. So I'm pulling it again to move it. And then I see out the window. I was expecting to see ice and, like frozen window. Meanwhile, I see outside is like all these like beautiful um, beautiful scenery like waterfalls and big foliage trees like in the tropics, and a little lake and birds, tropical birds and chirping around. I was like, what is happening here? In the meanwhile, I could hear in the background, all the army men running around and taking orders, and some would go to sleep and then switch shifts. And I'm like, and you could hear way above, you could hear still the airplanes going by and shooting the missiles. Like, that was like so bizarre. So I was like, what? I thought we were in Alaska. And like, no, now we're at the tropics. That makes completely no sense. The same thing. I'm like, okay, close the window. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's happening. And then the third time the same scene repeats. I'm grabbing my glass of water. I'm seeing this weird window. I don't know what's behind it. I'm like, what? I thought I did this. It kept repeating the same scene. I'm opening the window again, and out the window now I see Chinese lanterns and like kind of Asian style, with their dragons or whatever they have, and completely different scenery out there with and Chinese lanterns. And I was like, what's happening? What is this? I'm like, okay, and close it back. And I kind of now at this point, I kind of turned around and kind of started looking around myself, like, okay, what is this? I actually went back to my bed. Some people were sleeping, somebody was taking showers in their shower just with a curtain, like very bare minimum, everything. And then I found all the people had their boots ready and the weapons right down by their bed, ready to jump in and go quickly, whatever they were doing. And then I went back to again, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling thirsty. I'm going back to the kitchen. I was like, oh, I'll get a glass of water. And then the scene repeated itself. Here I am with a glass of water. I'm seeing this same little panel. Was dirty and kind of like gross. I'm like, ew, what is this? And I'm kind of like, I should open it. It was kind of like, wasn't opening very easy, kind of like you had to pull a little bit. And I'm peeking out the window. And I was like, wait, now there was a waterfall and a little lake, but there were like evergreen trees and like total different foliage I'm like more European foliage, North American, Northern Hemisphere foliage. And I'm like, okay, this is nuts. I have no idea what's happening. So, but what I had a sense was that every single time it was kind of like I moved up on the map, then down the map, right from Alaska down to the tropics, then to the left to the Asia. And this is why I put the world map in the background. So today to the side was Asia with the Chinese lanterns, and then the other side was like international, like evergreen trees and Northern Hemisphere. And then when I looked again, then I closed it back. I'm like, okay, wait, this is really weird now. And I was looking around, and the people changed in the bunkers. They were like changed in the sense that they weren't the people from before. Now they were like a bunch of different nationalities, like they're all talking different languages and like all huddled in together into this small bunker. And I'm like, what am I even doing here? I'm not even a military person. I have no idea what I'm doing here. So I'm like, okay, I kind of like left, and I was like, well, what else is here? And the walls were very dark and kind of like cement blocks. So I'm seeing a corridor I'm turning around, and I'm seeing on my left side, I'm seeing a long corridor, empty corridor. And how I perceived this, so far, how I perceived this, that these were 4 USA nuclear war fronts, okay? Alaska, tropics, Asia, right here, and then something in the Northern Hemisphere, Europe or something. What really was weird was that, so I went down that corridor. It was kind of long and not very well lit. So, and then I'm hearing some, from my right side, I'm hearing somebody opening the door. Somebody opened the door, and they were like left the door open. You know how sometimes the doors don't really close right away. And then I turned and I kind of looked. I'm like, oh, what is that? Two people came out, but they didn't see me. But I kind of, the way I peeked, I could see inside. So it was to the side of the bunker. Attached to this was command centers, like people in military uniforms, how you would see in, if Trump would go into his nuclear bunker and in the command center, like DEFCON, I don't know, 1 or something. And people were shouting orders and they were doing things in a big table with maps and big screens. I was like, what? Nuclear bunkers attached with command centers? That's like, wow. So these people now came closer to me, and I was like, oh my God, I shouldn't be out there, right? Because I was just an airman or just a soldier. I shouldn't be with these high officers. They shouldn't see me. So I hid behind the door. And these people came closer right by the door, and I heard the conversation. They were talking. So it was a superior officer, a brass officer, with his assistant. And he said, do not say anything you heard that we talked inside. This is classified, highly classified. You are not allowed to speak to anybody what we are doing here. And while I was listening to this, I'm like, what's to know? I mean, obviously there's like nuclear warships and missiles flying and a nuclear war. What's to know about it, right? I mean, everybody would know there's a nuclear war happening. But the way he said it, he said, yeah, people on the surface think that's a nuclear war, but we are actually doing something different. We have a different agenda. I was like, behind the door, I was like, oh my God, like, oh, now I know what secrets are happening inside, and this is highly classified. I kind of hid even more behind the door. I'm like, oh, this is really scary now, because if they find me and I shouldn't know about it, I'm like, oh my God, they're like, I don't know what's going to happen. And they say, like, okay, so under no circumstances are you allowed to say what you heard inside and what are the real plans for us that we're doing here. So I took that as like a false flag, or like it was obvious that's a nuclear war. What else what else could it be, right? Everybody would know, okay, nuclear war, warplanes flying, missiles flying, we're all going to die anyways. And I was a bit like, weird. I was like, I don't know what this means, but I was like now even more scared in the dream, because now I knew a secret that I should have not known about it. They went in. I got from behind the door, and just about when I was about to go to my quarters, I see down from the corridor about three or four soldiers, officers or whatnot, bringing in a native man, an Indian chief, with his wife. There was somebody smaller than him and kind of like huddled into him. And I was like, what is an Indian chief, a native chief, doing inside a nuclear bunker? You guys, I don't dream like this, okay? I cannot even come up with this. If I dream of flying and doing other things. I don't dream about wars. I think in my entire life, I had two more other dreams about wars, and they were like very short, not as detailed, not with so many words and sentences. And this is like, what is happening? So what is now the Indian chief doing there? So I now I put here the Indian chief in the something to do with the nuclear war, World War, I guess 3, right? We're there, friends. We're there, brothers and sisters. And he did not look happy. What really struck me was that the chief was not happy. They almost like had to caress them both into going towards the command center, and they are kind of like, they didn't really go. They're kind of upset and kind of like, you could feel that something was off. Okay, he was not going in to shake hands with, I don't know who was in there, what kind of major officer. I don't know who was in there because I couldn't tell faces, right? He wasn't there to give blessings. He was not happy. That was struck me, and I was like, what is this guy doing? What is it? What's an Indian, a Native American doing in a nuclear bunker? Right after I heard how those people were saying, you're not allowed to tell anybody what you heard in here. So obviously they were saying something different than, they were talking about something different than just the missiles flying over us, right? So while I still was still behind the door hidden, and then they passed me, and then the native chief, he dropped his poncho. He had like a poncho, you know how they have it. Probably can see in this picture, like more like a poncho, like textile, like warm poncho. But it looked weird the way he dropped it, right? Because if you drop something, if you drop your coat or your sweater, you stop and you turn back and pick it up and you go. But he dropped it more like a signal. Okay? So now I had three major weird factors since I got in the hallway, since I saw the command center. Okay? Because while I was just in the bunker on the other side, with the other airmen and whatnot, and seeing the windows, I was like, oh, well, that's weird. But, you know, I've seen so many movies with nuclear wars that I'm like, okay, maybe I'm imagining that I'm in a war zone and who knows. But now it was the third element that kind of like really made me like, well, this is weird. Why would he drop his thing as if like a signal? So, anyways, they went in, they shut the door. As I said, they were more like forcing him to go in to do something, right? And to do something that he was purpose for, because uh, especially native chiefs are given, right? They are being recruited, so to speak, since they're 12 years old. They're going through tremendous trainings, just like a Buddhist would go, like on the other side, right? So he was on his life mission to do something. So then I picked up the poncho and I was kind of like holding on to it, and I really felt like, you know, like some sort of like a comfort, and then, well, this is something really important and I should hold on to this message, like, oh, well, I go to the poncho, right? And so I did. After that, I woke up. So now I'm putting these things together. I'm like, God, what is going on? And then I'm receiving, right after I remembered my dream finally, right, which was 3 days ago. So I dreamt it on the 4 days ago, and I think that I heard that brother saying the domino effect is in place. Then that night I remembered the dream. You see, that's why I'm not sleeping probably. You guys, come on. You gotta pray for me. I then asked God, what is this all about? So I heard, in my testimony, I'm saying I'm having all these jaws. God wakes me up out of my sleep, out of just about to fall asleep. And then I'm hearing Hebrew words. And then I heard these two words right here. It says, Kataramea Yalek. And I keep repeating it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to sleep. I don't want to, what does this mean now? This is crazy. So I'm like, and if I don't write it down right away, so I have to get up, get my phone, write the notes. I keeps repeating on and over and over and over. I'm like, I just want to sleep. I'll write it down and then figure it out. But I'm like, who knows what it means? And then when I look it up in Bible Hub, in Strong's Concordance, kataramea means to invoke evil upon and to curse. In Greek, it's 2672. Yelek means locust, means 3218 in Hebrew, and means locust. So at this point, I was like, oh, oh, something is happening, right? And we do have these prophetic imageries, eschatological imageries about, military metaphors in Jeremiah 51, Nahum 3, where they're comparing uh, locusts with invading armies. So by the time I got to this, I was like, oh my God, something is really happening. I've got to get this message out. But then I was like, well, what's the matter with the native? Hold on a second. My puppy needs to go out. Hold on. So I was, okay, well, now it's becoming important, the message, as I felt in my spirit, especially after God gave me these words. But then I was like, okay, maybe I'm still imagining, because there's no way a native chief would have to go into a nuclear bunker. I mean, nobody can approach those things, right? We other as population would probably never even see a nuclear bunker. Would be just left out there to, perish. But we won't, because Jesus will rapture us before that. Okay, we will see all this from heaven or from the clouds. So then after this, I asked God. I actually did the research. I said, well, what's up with natives? What's up with natives? And obviously, you know how I did a research a few days ago about Triad Atlas. So Google, probably thinking that it kind of fed me a mix of, a mix of Triad Atlas and in native prophecies. Sounds like, what is happening? Well, it looks like, apparently, and which I knew about it, but I forgot about it. So it became kind of even more interesting and more of an urgent message, because native prophecies, the Hopi prophecy has a prophecy saying that when the blue star, Kachina they call it, shows up in the skies right after, that's the sign that right after the red star Kachina, the red Kachina will show up and damage Earth. Okay? Now, you know how we are dealing in God's timeline and human timeline. Okay? And we're so trained to believe that things are happening in a 2-hour window, Hollywood window movie, okay? Or it's the dynamic of it. I mean, it's 2 hours, I'm the hero. 2 hours, everything falls to pieces and the solution is here. No, God has a different timeline, okay? So, now, you know how the blue star Kachina, well, the blue star Kachina, the 3-eye atlas looks blue, is blue, and it has all these anomalies, right? We can't see it right now. And on top of that, a lot of people, including, Harvard professor Avi Loeb talks about and has been given the green light to talk publicly and on the news, and even the media reports it now, well, there's a potential of alien invasion. Okay, so with that kind of headline, and with the headline of the fact that with all the other headlines where we are looking at, so the Hopi prophecies calls for somebody, their star people, the star people, to come down on earth as a savior. Do you see how the anti-rapture, the parallel satanistic, I'm not saying the natives are satanistic or anything like that. I'm not saying that. Please understand that. I'm saying that there is a parallel storyline here. And on top of that, the spiritualistic communities, the New Age community, are waiting for their Lyrian, star seeds, Pleiadian, and I was in those circles, so I know what they're talking about. They're waiting for their savior, for their Messiah, okay, to come down and rescue their community, the light workers. Okay, very different than light warriors. Light warriors are Christian. Um, hold on. So in parallel with all the spiritual and prophetic timelines of the New Age community, of the Hopi prophecy, native Hopi prophecy, we're looking at the news. And this is why I set a watch date. I didn't set a watch date, don't get me wrong, but I'm looking at a high time watch window now with beginning in November. And I'll make another video with the brother's channel, who he got more into the calendars. Yesterday, I will just read you very quickly the headlines. Reported on Newsweek, Putin hails unique nuclear-powered cruise missile after latest test. Russian President Vladimir Putin has held the country's unique nuclear-powered Burevestnik missile after the military carried out new tests of long-range missiles and several of Moscow's most destructive weapons. The Burevestnik, also known as NATO moniker Skyfall, is ground-launched nuclear-powered cruise missile. Listen to this, nuclear-powered. And I'm telling you, since I had this dream, there are more and more talks. It's like everywhere I turn around, there's conversation about nuclear, advanced weaponry, and nuclear conversations. It was first unveiled by Putin in March 2018. That one included, they had like a test, and now yesterday, or this past week, because it was just unveiled by Putin yesterday morning, so on Russian time, but it'd be Sunday morning. It's so-called with a host of other next generation's weapons, including the so-called doomsday device Poseidon, a nuclear-powered, nuclear-tipped torpedo, meaning that now Russia claims that this new weapon, the Skyfall Burevestnik, has a range long enough to strike the US and is able to dodge Western air defenses because it's flying low and it's flying so fast it cannot be detected, and it's nuclear powered on board. It's like a flying Chernobyl, and doesn't need to come back and refuel itself. It's a unique product, unlike anything else in the world. It flied on this last week's test. It flied 14,000 kilometers or 8,700 miles in a 15-hour long test flight on October 21st. This is not the limit. Gerasimov, the chief of general staff of Russia's military, said in comments published by TASS State News Agency, and this is reported by Newsweek as well. This is a unique weapon with intercontinental range capability, although some Western analysts have been skeptical of the missile's true capabilities. Now, here's the thing, brothers and sisters, not on the same week, so this past week, Kremlin said that Putin has supervised a host of other strategic nuclear weapons tests, all three air and ground-launched weapons. Did not mention this Skyfall nuclear weapon, but they tested a different intercontinental ballistic missile and the Sineva submarine-launched ballistic missile. What I want to show here is the the test. This was done in March 2018. This is a picture from an older test. That test failed. But what I want to show you is that we are believing that, oh, it's intercontinental, because I'm telling you to my family and my family, I keep telling everyone, God is coming. Tribulation is about to start. We're going to get raptured, get in line with Jesus, you know. And that's what I'm hearing. Oh, well, it's old America. America will be wonderful and great forever, and nobody will attack us, and none of this will happen, and we're invincible, right? The very 1980 thinking. However, let me show you, when they say, we're saying, oh, it's intercontinental, flying between one continent and another, and we're thinking of like, oh yeah, across the oceans, right? From Asia, they must fly over the Pacific, over Hawaii, and then come over the West Coast, and from Russia fly over Europe, and then take the long route over the Atlantic. No, no, I just found out because I was like curious about what's up with the Alaska specifically, where the war actually started, and we're being invaded with drones and bombers and whatnot over Alaska from the Arctic. I looked it up, and you will not believe what I found. It's scary, my friends, brothers and sisters. This is the Arctic right here. Let me make my picture a bit smaller. Newsweek reported a while ago that there's been an intensified, especially since 2024, so last year, there's have been intensified nuclear bases in the Arctic. We're down here, so the purple is Canadian. The purple dots are Canadian, okay? The air bases, nuclear air bases. The blue ones are American, United States, right here up in Alaska. And then last year, Russia are all the green dots. That is scary. If I would say that's an eye opener, because they don't have to fly over the Atlantic. No, they can fly straight over the Arctic. All right, Canadians, start getting your binoculars out, because it's going to fly over your heads, my friends. And get ready, we get close to Jesus, because this, as God told me, it's coming. Now, last year, 2024, all these green dots, all these air bases, Moscow announced that they have manned all their air bases, and they're all nuclear powered bases, with 24-hour personnel, military personnel at each station. And in total, they have 32 right now. It extends all the way from right there, from the Bering Sea. I don't know what, across from Alaska all the way to Finland and Norway and Sweden. Okay. This past week also, there was a statement made by NATO's ally in Norway, saying that to be on watch. This was a warning for Trump's administration, for America specifically, where they have been told to be aware that there's a lot of nuclear testing being done, missile testing being done right now in this area, in the Arctic region. This is an area that a lot, us people don't really think about it, right? And right now, what are we seeing? We're seeing all the warships and what sent down where? South to Venezuela, right? And then we have all the other military sites down in, weaponry and whatnot down in the Middle East and in Taiwan, right? And in Japan and whatnot. So we are now looking at this area. Now, Trump today made a statement. Putin made a statement to after this week's mentioning by Putin that they had just successfully tested Skyfall, whatever it's Nick. See how it says Russian low-flying, nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed cruise missile, and according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, the missiles range is effectively unlimited. And Trump, what he did, he answered, basically said, well, we have submarines too, so don't worry about it. I'm getting pictures. Now, what I else wanted to show you was, so I wanted to show you the news, and today, and I'm going to say thank you to Grand Supreme News. I tried to get news on my own, and I can't find it. So I'm following Grand Supreme News and the New York Prepper. So I'm following a few channels. I'm going to read to you the latest today's news, as reported by Grand Supreme News, and I just the headlines: DEFCON warning: Russia tests doomsday nuke missile. Okay, we saw that. Russia tests doomsday nuke missile. Norway, here's where they tell us what's happening, just confirmed what everybody in defense circles suspected, that Russia's unlimited range brevetting missile was test fired from the Novaya Zemlya archipelago, I don't know how to say that, the same icy ground where Moscow used to test nuclear bombs. Oh, so it wasn't testing the Arctic, but the one that they did in 2018, it got tested in the Arctic and it fired up and killed a bunch of nuclear scientists and whatnot. So it was an accident, major accident. Now, next, Trump issued chilling warning to Putin after Russia tests new invincible nuclear missile. Two nuclear bombers have been confronted next to China. They're flying around Japan, I think, and they failed. Catastrophic loss of this weaponry of these flights. People, so there's a conversation that it might have been an EMP weapon used. These were the Japanese fighter jets scrambled as Russian military aircraft, including bombers capable of carrying nuclear weapons, flew close to the United States allies' airspace. Russia has been signaling its military strength to the country's Far East region through deployment of aircraft and vessels. And Times of India reports how Trump orders Tomahawk missile attack on Russia after this event, this incident. And this was just this afternoon. So, brothers and sisters, I'll get you back to our this is my video that didn't work, really, or it cut off in weird places. And here is the latest. Here is our breaking prophecy news and dreams. Imminent 4 USA nuclear war fronts when 3-eye atlas will be observed and called as a Hopi blue Kachina. I do not have a timeline on that. I didn't ask God for a timeline. I just wanted to, asked God and Jesus for confirmations what these two imageries in my dream were about. I did not ask exact, but they seem to be very well connected for a false flag event. Call it a blue beam, false flag. I don't know. I just know that all dominoes are in place. Brothers and sisters, please, if you like what I'm doing and the warnings I'm giving from God, this is my puppy crying. He needs to go potty. Please like and comment and subscribe. And I bless, love you all, and see you in the clouds if I don't see you until then. Much love.